In the world of professional football, there was once a league where players scrambled for possession instead of flipping coins. Cheerleaders were encouraged to date the players, and one running back famously wore "He Hate Me" on his jersey. Welcome to the XFL, Vince McMahon's wild football experiment that crashed and burned twice in spectacular fashion. From human coin tosses that resulted in separated shoulders, to blimp crashes, bankruptcy, and The Rock stepping in to save the day. This is the story of a league that promised to put the extreme back in football, but instead delivered one of sport's most fascinating failures. It all began in 1999 when WWE Chairman Vince McMahon decided the football world needed more pizzazz. While the NFL boasted $9 billion annual revenue and 32 teams, McMahon launched a 50-50 joint venture with NBC, featuring just 8 teams and a vision to create a wilder, more entertaining alternative. The XFL would be football reimagined, bringing the game back to its rougher roots by eliminating fair catches, allowing bump and run coverage, and introducing the human coin toss, where players raced and fought for the ball to determine kickoff possession. This innovation promptly resulted in the league's first injury when Orlando's Hassan Shamsi-Dean separated his shoulder during the inaugural scramble and missed the entire season, something the NFL, with its approximately 242 typical season injuries, never had to worry about. The XFL debuted on February 3, 2001, just 1 week after Super Bowl 35, drawing an impressive 9.5 Nielsen rating with 14 million viewers, roughly 40% of a typical NFL regular season game. McMahon's flair for the dramatic was evident in team names like the Orlando Rage, Memphis Maniacs, and Chicago Enforcers, most referenced images of insanity or criminal activity, unlike the NFL's traditional Bears and Packers. The Birmingham team, originally called the Blast, quickly rebranded to Thunderbolts after public outrage over the name's association with the city's bombing history. Unlike the NFL's franchise model with team values averaging $1 billion, the XFL operated as a single entity launched with just $100 million, about 1/10 of a single NFL team's worth. McMahon prepared to lose $50 million in the first season, but remained optimistic. The league's rules created a distinctive viewing experience with cameras everywhere, on the field, in locker rooms, even in huddles. Players and coaches wore microphones, giving unprecedented access that the NFL's controlled media environment would never allow. The XFL used a continuous clock outside the 2-minute warning, a shorter 35-second play clock, and allowed limited forward motion, all designed to speed up gameplay. The XFL's kickoff was revolutionary and dangerous. Coverage teams lined up just 5 yards from blockers, creating massive high-speed collisions that the NFL had been actively trying to eliminate through rules that reduced concussion risk by approximately 38%. The league also scrapped extra point kicks, instead requiring teams to run plays from scrimmage for 1 to 3 points based on distance, far more unpredictable than the NFL's 94% conversion rate from the 15-yard line. Off-field presentation was equally radical. Suggestively dressed cheerleaders were prominently featured, trash-talking announcers riled up crowds, and broadcasts incorporated WWE-style elements. One notorious moment came when NBC heavily promoted a halftime visit to the cheerleaders' locker room that turned out to be a pre-recorded sketch, something the NFL, with its 35% female viewership, would never attempt. Player compensation was minuscule by comparison, with XFL athletes earning just $4,500 weekly, quarterbacks $5,000, totaling about $45,000 for a full season versus the NFL's $209,000 minimum salary. Team salary caps stood at approximately $4 million compared to the NFL's $67.4 million. Despite these stark differences, the XFL pioneered innovations that would become standard in football broadcasts: the overhead skycam, on-player microphones, and extensive sideline coverage. Unfortunately, viewership plummeted after Week 1, dropping from a 9.5 to just 1.5 rating by Week 4, losing 85% of its audience. NBC grew frustrated, especially after a double overtime game delayed Saturday Night Live, prompting the network to implement strict time constraints and cut off games at 11 p.m., regardless of completion status. The Los Angeles Extreme eventually defeated the San Francisco Demons 38-6 in the $1 million game on April 21, 2001, with quarterback Tommy Maddox earning MVP honors before later finding success with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just 3 weeks later, McMahon announced the XFL was ceasing operations after losing $70 million, $35 million each for WWE and NBC. TV Guide later ranked it the third worst show of all time, while ESPN named it sports' second biggest flop. Remarkably, this wasn't the end. In January 2018, McMahon announced the XFL would return in 2020, investing $500 million, 5 times his initial stake, through Alpha Entertainment. The reboot promised to be more serious, abandoning cheerleaders and wrestling influences while maintaining innovations like the safer kickoff format and three-point conversion. The XFL targeted 2.5-hour games and focused on faster-paced action. The revived league launched February 8, 2020, with positive reviews. Attendance averaged about 17,000 fans, and ratings started strong at 3.1 million viewers, before declining to 1.4 million by week 4, still better than the original XFL's late-season numbers. Then COVID-19 struck. Just 5 weeks into its season, the pandemic forced suspension of operations on March 12th. By April, all employees were laid off and the league declared bankruptcy. In an astonishing twist on August 3, 2020, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, former WWE star and brief professional football player, led a consortium that purchased the XFL for just $15 million, less than 3% of McMahon's investment. Johnson and partners, including ex-wife Dani Garcia, eventually targeted February 2023 for the third iteration, positioning the XFL as more developmental than competitive. The new ownership secured a 5-year media deal with Disney and ESPN. XFL 3.0 launched with 8 teams and lower expectations. Opening weekend drew just 1.54 million viewers compared to 3.3 million in 2020. Still, the St. Louis Battlehawks set an attendance record with 38,310 fans for their home opener, showing there was still significant interest in certain markets. Financially, the 2023 season cost about $140 million while generating only $80 million in revenue, a $60 million loss. Despite these challenges, the season concluded successfully with Arlington defeating DC 35-26 in the championship. Just as stability seemed possible, in September 2023, the XFL announced its intention to merge with the USFL, another spring football league. By December, the merger formed the United Football League, with the XFL becoming one conference within the new organization. After 2 decades, 3 launches, 2 bankruptcies, and multiple ownership changes, McMahon's extreme football experiment had evolved. Not as the revolutionary force he envisioned, but as part of a larger effort to create sustainable spring football. The XFL's history is a study in ambition and overreach. It dared to challenge football conventions with innovations that were sometimes brilliant and sometimes bizarre. Its broadcast technologies changed how viewers experienced the game, while its rules experiments showed that football could evolve beyond its traditional boundaries. The league's financial model proved unsustainable, yet its impact remained outsized compared to its brief existence. For all its failures, the XFL demonstrated the immense difficulty of launching a new sports league in the modern era. It showed that even with celebrity backing, network support, and innovative ideas, creating a sustainable football alternative requires more than spectacle and gimmicks. The XFL may have fumbled repeatedly, but it never lacked for boldness or vision. The league that started with a blimp crash, featured He Hate Me, and eventually required The Rock's rescue may never have achieved its lofty goals, but it certainly left a mark on football that extends far beyond its brief playing seasons. In the end, the XFL's greatest contribution wasn't in competing with established football powers, but in showing how the game itself could be reimagined, repackaged, and occasionally revolutionized.